Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of My Tummy Hurts. I'm your host, Shannon Chan Kent, and I am here with my functional doctor, Dr. Ashley Beckman. Thank you.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Thank you so much for being here. I feel very grateful to have you and very honored that you took the time out of your day to come.
Of course, it's really fun to dive into all these topics because things look so simple online or on social media, and there are a lot of layers, and I know we'll hop into a
To
lot of
all
them.
of them.
Yeah.
Well, and especially I think because I've been doing like solo episodes and being like, it's this, and I think it's this. And of course, like when we're on our messages together, I'm like, well, what about this? And I think you could
Yeah.
just clear the air for a lot of confused listeners on what I'm dealing with. um,
Oh, yeah, sure.
and just in general of, I want to know how you got into this field. Okay, so
Yeah.
you and I have been working together for 2 years probably
Yep.
now.
Yep. I think
Two,
coming on 2 years. Yeah.
2 years. I found you on Instagram.
Hmm.
Do a lot of your clients find you on Instagram or like word of mouth
Yeah.
or?
It's a combination. So I worked in a really busy functional medicine practice in Beverly Hills for about 9 years here.
Mhm.
And so I get a combination of, referrals from when I was working in an office, and then the other source is all through Instagram. So
Okay.
it's always an interesting thing because, with social, you kind of have to give people these very small snippets
Mm,
because it's like marketing, but in a 30-second clip,
yeah.
right? You can't make these complex cases seem so easy, without finding a really good way to speak to somebody and resonate with either something that you've been through or you're going through.
Yeah.
It's very difficult on social media to have the whole nuances of what is really involved.
That makes so much sense. I mean, I just know when I'm spiraling and I'm like, hey, I just saw this on Instagram. And it's like, you're like, it's so much more nuanced than that. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And we
So,
all want it to be that simple, right? Again,
yeah.
so I got into this because I've been through most of all these things as well.
Yeah.
So like personally, growing up, I was just sensitive. I was like, got sick if someone hugged me wearing perfume, right? That
Mm,
started in grade school, things like that. And I had headaches as a kid. And then as a older adult, when I was in graduate school for acupuncture, I just had this really debilitating joint pain. Like it hurt to hold my phone. I woke up one day, I couldn't walk because my ankles hurt so badly. So I went to
mm,
my regular GP and she just said, you probably have some weird autoimmune thing, probably won't show up on any labs, even if you're lucky in about 10 years, but don't bet on it.
hmm.
And I said, could this have anything to do with food? Like I was kind of looking into gluten and dairy and sugar. She said, absolutely not. There's nothing you can do. You just have to wait, right?
Mm,
Until maybe lab testing might catch up, or your disease will get so much worse that it'll finally show up. She said, maybe as RA, right?
right.
Rheumatoid arthritis. And I said, well, that's kind of ridiculous. I'm in, natural medicine school. I'm going to dive in. And at that point, I was able to resolve most of my symptoms when I got off gluten and dairy and grains and sugar. So
Okay.
then I thought I found out what it is, right? Like I'm just gluten sensitive.
Yeah.
But then many years later, I started to feel very sick. I lived in a house with mold. And again, I didn't know it at all. But I'd just gone fully virtual with my practice. So I was in my office all day long.
Mm,
And it just, yeah, I felt very, very sick. And then now Lyme testing is much better. So
hmm.
I ran a very comprehensive panel and then a lot of Lyme. I think I had 25 co-infections came back.
Wow.
And then I had maybe 5 or 6 types of mold. So it kind of put me into that kind of trajectory for a long time. But then when you still again put the pieces together
Hmm.
of why have I been chemically sensitive for most of my life, that's more of like a mast cell thing.
Yeah.
So all of these things are clues, right? And our symptoms are clues. It's not our body failing. It's
Hmm.
trying to get us to look at things, look at how you live, look at your emotions, your
Hmm.
stress, and then chemicals and things that biotoxins we're exposed to,
Hmm.
and really get a good, accurate picture of what's going on in your system and how maybe you might have come in with some of these genetic predispositions,
Yeah.
but what activated those for you? Because I have
Yeah.
a ton of things in my genes that are very high risk that I definitely do not have, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's very tricky.
Yeah. I mean, that was so beautifully explained. I was going to ask you on the genetics part,
Yeah.
and because you did your doctorate or dissertation on
Yes.
epigenetics or genetics.
So
Same.
yeah, I study epigenetics means above the genetic code, right?
Okay.
So what's very cool about our genes is when you get your genetic testing, those don't change, right?
Yeah.
Those are set in stone. But what does change is our expression of the genes. So how you live, your lifestyle, your emotions, the food you eat every day, how you exercise, all can either turn gene expression on or off to be
Mm,
favorable to help you or unfavorable, which leads into sort of a disease pathway or pattern.
yeah.
But what I studied, because I've been obsessed with green tea and matcha for 20 years, and is I was studying four different nutritional compounds, which is found in green tea, resveratrol in grapes and wine, but people take it so you can drink wine, but don't drink wine. And sulforaphane, which is in cruciferous veggies,
Mm,
and then curcumin, which is in turmeric. So these epigenetic compounds, I was studying for an epigenetic diet, right? Or taking these supplements. They turn on so many genes in a favorable expression, that we have a lot of control with our genes. We
yeah.
get this like doomsday notice that you have MTHFR.
Yeah.
And again, it's really not always such a big thing, but it can be an amazing insight into how we process things. And what I found was that I really don't process certain things well at all. And they're
Mm.
mostly in the toxin and Lyme and like perfume and chemical families. So it made sense why I was so sensitive and other people just aren't.
Do you believe that, if someone, so I had heard by all my Instagram research,
Yes. Yeah.
someone might be, have a harder time with curcumin because of a gene mutation. So the curcumin actually, or the quercetin, they
Right.
have mast cell, and now the quercetin is actually turning on more anxiety for them. Are
Yeah.
you able to see that through a genetic test or?
Yes. Yeah. So you can see these things like a big one that's a really common one is, for example, collagen, right? So
Mm,
some people, collagen can cause a lot of anxiety, right? So a lot of the times what makes things so difficult is someone will see something and again it's marketed to everybody is like
yeah,
the solution, right? You
yeah,
just need to take collagen or you just need quercetin, right?
yeah,
All your histamine issues will go away. But for some people that might not be actually even beneficial and it could create more symptoms.
yeah,
And so really we're just so unique and even some of the things that we see in the genetics, and this is why you have to work with somebody who kind of understands these things and pairs genetics with current labs, right?
mm-hmm,
Because it's you the genetics are only a part of the puzzle. And again,
yeah,
you might not have activated those genes. Like it might be
yeah,
fine for you, right?
yeah,
So really putting into account like how do you actually react right now to these things because as we know you could be fine with something and then a few months later you're not or
mm-hmm,
vice versa. And
mm-hmm,
so it's also always in movement and fluctuation, right?
yeah.
So a lot of the things, especially if you're dealing with mast cells, it's extremely tricky because you could be fine one day eating this food and then the next day you're not and you're like, well, what was it, right?
I think that's been the trickiest thing for me. And I did notice when I went on a low histamine diet for sure. Um, I also had, I think I told you 2 years ago, I had this like psychic or intuitive be
Yeah.
like, it's histamine, it's histamine. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I don't get seasonal allergies. That's all
Right.
I thought histamine was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm fine. But I was so puffy and like retaining so much water and had all of these symptoms. And then I went on low histamine and it didn't totally take everything away.
Yeah.
But I was
It's
like,
just
oh,
trying not, it's just not adding more,
yeah,
right? And so again, there's a kind of a difference, right, between these traditional histamine responses that people think of that are more like hives and skin issues
Yeah.
and allergies. But then there's all these neurological ones, there's digestive ones. So it manifests in so many ways. And so a lot of people have a combination of both. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, even for myself, I didn't really put the pieces together for much longer because I don't have any histamine responses. I get
Hmm.
everything neurological. But again, if someone really gets a lot of headaches and migraines and is sensitive to perfumes, you need to take a look and see if histamine is an issue. And it's
Yeah.
probably not the food types of histamines.
Yeah.
It's like you're reacting from mold or Lyme, and it's creating these inflammatory cascades
Yeah.
of cytokines and a whole bunch of things that are still histamine oriented,
Yeah.
but not our traditional signs.
When I had first gotten sick and I didn't really realize like how I recognized that something was wrong, but I was driving to Palm Springs and I remember meeting my parents in Palm Springs and being in my parents' new car. They had just bought
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but it wasn't the car smell. It was
Oh,
my dad's cologne. And I
oh,
have never,
yeah.
ever. I am not smell sensitive. Listen,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't love smelling if someone is sick to their stomach or whatever, but I was not. I wore perfume, I had
Oh, yeah.
scented candles,
Yeah.
all of the nose,
Yeah.
but I was like, Dad, I was like, we need to get to the restaurant. I need to get out of this car. I remember being at that dinner and having inner tremors and having so much anxiety. And I was like, I don't know why I'm anxious. I'm here with my parents. We're in
Yeah.
Palm Springs
Yeah. Going on a trip.
going
Yeah.
on a trip, but I was motion sickness.
Hmm.
I couldn't take his cologne. And now, of course, 3.5, 4 years into it, I'm like, it must have been Marcel
Right.
or right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
you
a
were, and
storm.
the mast cells were reacting. And again, so fragrances and cleaning chemicals
Yeah.
for me in particular were like the worst. They're the worst even to this day. I went to a
Mm.
conference just recently where they pump all the fragrance through the vents. And
Wha-
yeah, and I forget that this happens all over the place.
Yeah.
And so at conferences, it's a big one because you're in a big hotel.
Yeah.
And this was a Ritz-Carlton. And again, it was just overwhelming. And it took a lot for me to even be able to speak at my event because
Mm.
it was so reactive for me. And I mean, so many people at the conference noticed it too, but it's, I think people just forget. And if it doesn't bother you, but it doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shows it manifests. And also for a lot of people, you get symptoms that are like POTS, but you know,
Yeah.
what's driving that, right? Like what's
Yeah.
driving your heart to react like that and your blood pressure to change and all of these things. And so again, it's like helpful to have a diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
but we still always have to look like what's the upstream issue.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, I'd say, unfortunately, now we don't have just one, right?
Yeah.
It's often a few things that topple together that then create like a big flare or, you know, a big reaction. And unfortunately, too, with a lot of the different viruses we've been exposed to, the viruses are really another big biotoxin that create these inflammatory cascades.
Yeah.
And it's just another big piece that pretty much everyone is dealing with now.
Yeah, I just read something about like EBV being a cause of lupus.
Right.
Or
And so a big one too, a lot of Lyme is like a lot of these different pathogens are misdiagnosed, right? So like Lyme is often misdiagnosed as with lupus or MS and RA, of course. And that there's quite a few, right, that we have these connections with. And the same, you look for like which pathogen is actually creating this
hmm.
disease that someone might be um, diagnosed with. And
Mm-hmm.
then another very common one that we see a lot, like again, because I work with mold a lot, and
Mm.
it's generally a huge piece with mast cell, but so are viruses like Epstein-Barr and COVID. You know, a lot of these things, it's like, what is one of your systems kind of like under duress so much that it then manifests into something that can show up as a disease on traditional lab testing. But we always want to go back because some of these things you can get rid of when you
Mm-hmm.
clear out these layers of pathogens. It just takes time.
Yeah, I want to know where you stand. I mean, I have a very dear friend who has ALS,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
when she first was diagnosed with ALS, Lyme and mold came up.
Yeah.
So
And
she,
usually metals and pesticides too, and
yes.
concussion.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if she had a concussion. She's in her 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she moved out of her apartment.
Hmm.
She started seeing an integrative doctor, and then she went to like one of those kind of integrative places in
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yes. Yeah.
And she did a whole, I think, like Dr. Hyman, or is his name Hyman? Not
Hmm.
Hyman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went there or something like that. And she went and she did stem cell therapy. And apparently, when she left, she was rid of Lyme,
Hmm.
but the ALS
Was still
is,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That, yeah, it's so ALS is one of the most difficult, right? Like I think you can see a lot more traction with some, I would say more like lupus
lupus or,
and yeah,
yeah,
and MS and things like that. But again,
yeah.
once the brain is so impacted by so many of these toxins that are impacting the brain
Mm-hmm.
and neurological system so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get that back,
To
right? To
reverse it.
where you're, yeah. But ALS is, I had one client who had quite a very strong case of ALS, and it's, there's not a lot of hope in general for ALS because it's quite severe and
Yeah.
debilitating very quickly.
Yeah.
Even though, again, what I've seen on the labs of people that have ALS is usually significant mold, significant EBV,
Mm,
and significant either pesticides or metals. And then again, with the younger men, they're
mm,
often like maybe firefighters or they were in sports where they had a lot of concussions. And so
okay.
it just is, we're all unique, and it's always interesting to me. A lot of these pathogens are the same for everybody, but how does it manifest, right? Like for somebody like that gets vestibular migraines
Mm-hmm.
versus someone that it goes to their digestive system,
Mm,
right? Or it goes to their joints.
mm-hmm.
To me, it's interesting from a clinical side,
What is
and
it
then
about? Oh, sorry.
sorry, like a Chinese medicine side, and that's what I
Yes.
love seeing because those organ systems are connected to your eyes, your joints, and things like that, and so it's just interesting to see how those pathways work.
What about a concussion? Is because I know Sarah, who is also on
Hmm.
my podcast,
Yeah.
she was in a car accident and she felt like all of her symptoms and Lyme stuff started
Oh, yeah.
coming up after the car accident. So, what is it
Yes.
about a concussion? And I feel like I had head trauma, but the head trauma was from a virus.
Right. Yeah.
But it's still, I feel like I've been concussed. So a little bit different. But what is it about the head trauma that brings like a cascade of these diagnoses?
Sure. So, well, the thing too, when you've been through something traumatic, right? A car accident is like it is so quick and shocking to your whole system
Mm,
that it is a major thing to get over, right? So a lot of the times, and because of just the spine, most of the time things are impacted neurologically.
hmm
And a lot of the things that we might have already in our system, like the viruses, they love to live in the spinal column, right? Epstein-Barr, the whole herpes family, like they love the spinal column. And they can come out very easily with stress, right? And so a car accident, even a small one, can be a very stressful experience, either emotionally and or physically. And
hmm
then once you have kind of that weakness, right? A lot of us have had some sort of whiplash, right? So again, like Lyme loves that, and most of people with Lyme have that, constant pain at the base of the skull and then your neck, which you just think, oh, I have neck pain. I've had that's
hmm
from carrying things or sitting at a desk. But a lot of the Lyme just lives in there and creates pain on a chronic basis.
Hmm.
So there's the emotional side, right, of an
Yeah.
accident. And then there's the physical trauma as well when all those ligaments are stretched and
Yeah.
things like that. And again, these pathogens are very intelligent. Like they hide. That's why they're called stealth pathogens. And then they come out either when there's some food they want to eat, like some
hmm
sugar and things that they want to consume to keep them alive,
hmm
or when you're stressed, your chi is weak, and so they
Yeah.
take that opportunity to kind of like come out and to multiply.
Hmm.
So I talk about this a lot. I know I talk about it with you, but we're this host to all these organisms.
Yeah.
And so that's where it gets a little tricky because, you can work on getting them down or not, go into remission.
Hmm.
And then you could have some stressful event. It could just be like a divorce or a breakup or
Hmm.
an issue with a friend, and then you're all flared up again.
Yeah.
And so that's when we talk about some of the emotional sides of
Yeah.
having chronic things, and the
Yeah.
same where nervous system support is critical, but it's not everything.
Yeah. I mean, it was my sister got married in September, and I remember messaging you being like, my mom has shingles. Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
like, she has shingles. And then a week after got COVID. And I was
Right.
like, I
Yeah.
wonder what came first. The shingles already, the herpes virus was
It's
already
there.
there.
Yeah.
But did like the COVID tip her over the edge? Was the stress of the wedding? I mean, a combination,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. And it can be a happy stress, right? Like a
Yeah.
wedding is happy,
Yeah.
even though it has a lot going on,
Yeah.
right? So, most people that get shingles, again, it's usually like I've had it twice already. One was during when I was getting divorced. The second one is when I moved out of a house from mold. So, like
Mm.
something lowers your immune system,
Mm.
and then it just allows that shingles virus to come out, right? And
Yeah.
so again, a lot of this does come back to stress and how resilient is your body at being able to deal with things on a day-to-day basis that
Mm-hmm.
are stressful. Like how
Mm-hmm.
easy is it for things to roll off, but for you not to shove the emotions and
Yeah.
trauma deep inside because that will come out later, right? A
Yeah.
lot of the things we're dealing with, when you look at kind of the emotional connection of the organs, they're some of our core emotions that we have, and they were things that we went through even as a child.
Yeah. There's I like hate explaining it and like not because I don't do a good job of explaining it, but there is such a misconception out there about Lyme
Yes.
and I'm just everyone's like, where did you go hiking? You don't live on the East Coast. I'm
Right.
like, honestly, I could have been infected years ago. Like, I don't know. Other than this last summer when we knew
Yeah.
I got a tick bite, which was
That
huge,
was a very big reaction. Yes.
huge
Yeah.
reaction. But can you kind of clear up all the controversy? I have a
Sure.
very good girlfriend who's like, "What do you mean you have Lyme?" Like, "No, you don't have Lyme. You don't have
Yeah.
Lyme." And I'm like, "But it feels like such a buzzword now. Like it
Mm.
feels like everyone's got Lyme and mold.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep. Yeah,
Maybe because
for
it's my
sure.
algorithm right now,
Well,
but
for sure it's the algorithm too. But I know I forget when other people's Instagram is just like, puppies and
puppies
piglets
and
and things. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's like the happy things that I look at.
Yeah.
But again, it is, I know, because we've been seeing things more on the media, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
only famous people now have Lyme. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, it's everywhere, right? So, and I even had a practitioner who was a friend of mine. She was questioning me, and she's like, you don't have, why would you have Lyme? You live in California, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not here." And so I worked for a practitioner about 20 years ago. And again, this is how the universe works, right? So her whole focus, she worked on Lyme specifically. She had come from like the Hamptons. So
Mm-hmm.
tons of people, of course, have it out
Mm-hmm.
there on the East Coast. She came out to California and still fully worked on Lyme because of how many people had Lyme out here.
Yeah.
And it was just, I saw it as this, terrible disease. And I was like, I never want to work with people with Lyme. This just seems like so horrible. And they're
Mm-hmm.
in so much pain and chronically ill and sensitive to everything. And, of course, this is like, it was leading me to my path because I ended up having that thing. And working with most of my clients have Lyme of some sort, right? Because we know to test now. A
Yeah.
lot of the people, if you live out here, they won't test it. And then if they do just the regular kind of lab core testing that is predominantly negative, right? It's
Mm.
mostly false negatives. If you actually show up with Lyme on the traditional testing, it's very bad in your system. Like you're very
Mm.
inflamed, right? So the thing is it's all over the whole country, right? And it can be spread. I know that actually somewhere just said this wasn't true, but more people than not say that it can be spread through mosquitoes
Yeah.
and besides ticks, and then even
And
some of the
sexually transmitted too?
so
Is that?
potentially,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that you can potentially also pass it down to your children,
Yeah.
right? So if the mom has Lyme, there's a chance again that you could pass it down.
Hmm.
And so there's just a lot, again, there's this theory we have in functional medicine of like terrain versus pathogen, right?
Mm.
We hear this all the time when people just say, no, you just need to heal your gut. Like that's going to solve everything,
Yeah.
right? But it's not, it's both, right? You can have a time where these pathogens are so strong that you need to get that load down in order to heal the gut, right?
Yeah.
You can't, they're what's causing that gut impermeability.
Hmm.
So if you just try to keep sealing and healing the gut lining, these things will just keep infiltrating, right? And
Right.
keep you stuck in this loop. And that's what's so crazy online because it'll be like, just have fermented foods and, right, eats. And these can be the worst things for a lot of the clients that already have fungal overgrowth,
Yeah.
candida overgrowth, and histamine issues.
Yeah.
So these things that are touted as these sort of like gut healing miracles and yogurt, right?
Hmm.
It's some of the things that will create more symptoms and really kind of set you back. And so
Yeah.
that's why it's so hard. And I understand how overwhelming it is for people, but the information online is really never targeted toward the individual
Yeah.
specifically when you have so many complex layers.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who has a lot going on and symptoms that change all the time and you're flaring and then you're not, it's
Yeah.
raining in LA, right? So this throws off a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
For migraines and joint pain and just not feeling well.
Yeah.
And so again, like it's marketing online is very specific or it's very broad, even though they're
Hmm.
talking about something very specific. And so I know it's overwhelming for people and we all want something easy and
Totally.
like one new thing to buy, right? That's
Yeah.
going to shift it all. And so,
Yeah.
I always try so many things and just as being in this field and as being someone who's got some of these different things I've been working on, everything sounds like it's going to be the next miracle
I know.
cure,
I
right?
know. Well, and that also with Lyme, that also brings me to mold. And can you
Yes.
talk about I know you're a big mold doctor, and
Mhm.
like, can you talk about the misconceptions with mold as well? Because we
Sure.
can't ever get rid of mold. Mold is always around us. Mold,
Right.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yes, some of us have genetic dispositions to mold. And then if
Mhm.
our toxic bucket is full
Yeah.
already, but if you could maybe
Sure.
explain, yeah,
Yeah, I love talking about kind of like the myths about mold, right? And
yeah,
you mentioned quite a few, right? People go, "Well, there's mold everywhere." Yes,
yeah,
there's mold everywhere, right? But if it's in your home, in your bedroom, and you're breathing in it every night, that's very different than all of the outside mold that
hmm,
we need for
hmm,
our earth and environment and the whole ecosystem. But homes in general, there's about 50% have more like toxic mold where it's too much for especially a sensitive system.
hmm,
And some people think, oh, mold is only respiratory, right? Like you just would get asthma or sinus infections.
hmm,
But mold can attack all organ systems in the body. So for some people, it can show up as more like OCD or ADD and depression.
hmm.
Or for some people, it can be joint pain, migraines, headaches. It can be tons of brain fog and fatigue. And then, of course, you get like asthma, eczema. Those are a lot that I see with little kids as well.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a lot more to it. We have all these little things that when I hear a symptom, I know to go check, right?
Hmm.
But as I was seeing in my practice, I only recall two clients out of my whole practice that have not had mold. And it was
My God.
significant. It's not like they had two kinds. And what's interesting is even before it used to be like if I saw 5 or 6 strains, that was quite a bit. And now I'm seeing 12 to 18.
Hmm.
So again, it does happen as I see people that are maybe more chronically ill and they've got
Hmm.
a lot more in their system. But it's a really big issue. And so the reason I focus on it so much is because A, I saw it in majority of all my clients. And then so many people were telling me that their doctors told them it's not an issue. It doesn't make people sick unless it's black mold. And they don't
Mm-hmm.
even know if it does make people sick then. And and then again, that their symptoms could not be related to mold at all. But mold suppresses your immune system,
Yeah.
which then allows all of the other things like Lyme and Epstein-Barr and strep to kind of run rampant in your system. And so most people that were coming to me initially had Hashimoto's, which again, we look for mold. And then the other big one was Epstein-Barr because, that's been talked about for decades. That like
Mm.
over 25% of the population has it. It's just not a big deal. And
Yeah.
again, it's what is allowing whatever pathogens we have to be active, right? Because they can
Yeah.
go dormant for sure, especially
Yeah.
when you're healthy and, not too stressed, exercising, doing all the things. And it's just there's a lot of people that, that's not really our world anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not able to do these things. And kind of like you, a lot of my clients, they were exercise instructors, right? They were running marathons.
Yeah.
They were these very active, healthy, mostly women. And
Yeah.
then now they're just like, I don't even know who I am anymore because I can't even walk up the stairs
Yeah.
without getting out of breath, or I can't walk my son to school, which is like what I want to do, or play with him.
Just
And
the
so it's,
simplest things.
yeah, are too much, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's never just mold or
Yeah.
it's never just Lyme because they live in our system together,
Mm-hmm.
and they just get out of they all basically go like unchecked when there's mold because it's like taking away the goalie who's keeping your immune system intact and helping fight these pathogens off, or at least keep them at the low level so that maybe you were exposed in the past, like a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are exposed to Epstein-Barr,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean you're in an Epstein-Barr flare for 5 or 10 years.
Do you think that like let's say I mean, I grew up in Vancouver, like
Yeah,
Pacific Northwest, lots
yeah,
of wooden
you guys have more
buildings.
mold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But do you think it was the mold that maybe tipped the lime off or the lime that tipped the mold off? Do you know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah, sure.
you
It's
know?
usually the mold that tips the pathogen off,
Okay.
right? A lot of
Okay.
times, because you can have people that have low amounts of Lyme, low amounts of Epstein-Barr. Again, they like show up as a past exposure,
Mm-hmm.
and it's usually some, yeah, more recent exposure to mold. And again, this might not have been your first exposure to mold. It probably
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Most of us, you know, I know I had a childhood home that definitely had mold because we had so
Mm-hmm.
much flooding all the time in Texas. And it's people think like, oh, it's in the basement, it's not affecting the home. It does. Our home is a whole ecosystem as well.
Yeah.
So if you have something in the attic or the basement, it still can get circulated throughout your
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And so that's a big issue, but it's usually, this might be your third or fourth or more exposure to mold, and this finally your body's like, okay, this is, you can't handle this anymore,
Yeah.
right? And then maybe coupled with moving or a stressful event, and again your toxin bucket is full,
Yeah.
and then you're the same with adding some extra stress, and then your body just it can't take it anymore.
So because I've had this like migrainous flare up for a while, and because we're looking at other things and mast cell, I haven't been able to tolerate for over a year, like a sauna bag,
Oh yeah, yes,
all the things that you need to do to detox from mold. We have an air scrubber and we just renovated, so I know
yeah,
there's no mold. I
yes,
looked at the walls, I looked everywhere.
yeah,
We put an air scrubber in our HVAC. I'm probably gonna get behind my partner's back more air filters. He's like, I
yeah,
don't want any more, but I'm like, okay. I know I'm doing my best to live in a mold-free environment, and
yeah,
especially because I'm home resting all the time.
right,
Um, but for someone who has like MCAS, who can't do the traditional things like
sure,
sweat and
yeah.
exercise and bind, what do you what does one do to help bring that load down?
Sure. So, yeah, and that's what happens a lot, right? Because heat and cold can be very activating for mast cells. So the sauna is often not always a good option.
Yeah.
Or if it is, it's, very tailored and customized to the individual of like maybe 5 minutes at
Yeah.
125 degrees, not
Yeah.
people going in at 160 for 45 minutes and they're like,
Yeah.
this is what you have to do, right? That will throw off a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, a lot of the things like morning sunlight, right? Trying to
Mm-hmm.
get as much as you can back to nature and grounding. So, if you can actually ground on some clean grass or the
Mm-hmm.
beach, right? And again, some of these habits are just trying to get us back to nature and get your circadian rhythm reset.
Okay.
Again, hydration we know is very critical.
Yeah.
And just even so if you can walk, right? Walking can be some of the best exercise and it keeps your chi moving. But
Mm-hmm.
again, anything or anytime you start to feel a little off, you do have to stop because that means
Yeah.
for your particular body, you've pushed it too far. And
Yeah.
for some people, that's 10 minutes, right? It
Yeah.
looks different for everybody. But some of the biggest things are just figuring out how to, again, like you were saying, going on low histamine diet is helpful, but it's not necessarily going to calm your mast cells. It's just not going
Yeah.
to add more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So, or having some other, maybe gentle binders that are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some other things that sometimes people use more in the form of food.
Yeah.
And then some of the things like you mentioned slightly are just, like community and fun and like finding joy because
Mm-hmm.
most of this is such like a Groundhog Day situation.
Yeah.
And so the mindset piece is really important and figuring out again, because when you're always looking for like, what did I react from? Did I go into a house with mold? Is
Always.
there fragrance in this candle? All of those things, like they're all ways that we keep looking for safety, but we're feeling unsafe, right? It's like
Yeah.
what triggered me today, right?
Yeah.
There must have been something in my food. There must have been something in that, restaurant I ate in that they were cleaning the floors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, and then another big part of that too is like being online and always looking for things or being in chat groups, right? For
Yeah.
whatever your current illness might be. I don't like that word, but situation of symptoms.
Yeah.
And so, again, if we keep thinking, because the mind is so powerful, like I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've been on the phone with clients and I've gone, oh, that's so interesting. I never had that symptom with Lyme. And the next day I get it.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's like you have to be like, you're the looking for the good in life and like reimagining how you felt or like how it
Mm-hmm.
feels to be healthy and like doing all the things
Mm-hmm.
is also very important because our brain will default more to a negative memory or a negative thought. So all day long it's like you have to be bringing ourselves back to like joy and safety
Yeah.
and things. If it's like, yeah, talking to a friend and you can vent a little but not like going into all your symptoms all day long,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because then it keeps you remembering, oh, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
So there's this delicate balance, right? Like you don't want to bypass people's experience, but you also are programming your cells for healing, not staying
Yeah.
stuck where you are.
Yeah, which brings me to you also know a lot about and work with a lot of homeopathics.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so I know you have a lot of sensitive patients who can't tolerate supplements. So I know that that
Mhm.
is a route you like to take, but even like for like staying positive or there's a lot of grief that
Yeah.
comes with having,
Yes.
a chronic whatever
Yeah.
situation.
You're the life that you're not living that
Yeah.
you could be.
Can you explain how you use your homeopathics for different patients or what the
Sure.
benefits are from that
So
for the
some of
skeptics out there?
Oh, sure. So some of the top ones that I love, and I guess so I'll start with this. I studied under classical homeopath for 5 years. That was the first thing I did. And so again, this is not classical homeopathy, what I use now. That was like one remedy, one dose every year.
Yeah.
Like, and this was supposed to fix you, right? What I would say, and a lot of other homeopaths were in agreement with this, is the current climate doesn't warrant for those to work like they used to, right?
Hmm.
We've been exposed to so many things, just every day and with our phones and EMF, like everything is just, we're in a different situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than when Samuel Hahnemann created these remedies and did this, hundreds of years ago. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
So these remedies are combination remedies, which just means they have more than one homeopathic formula in them. And so they've put them together. The company I use is called Desbio. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be like a grief remedy, a anxious, resentment, rage. These are kind of the top ones I use the most. And a lot of us, if we really think back to what kind of like drives you, we have some of these thoughts or negative things, right, that we feel are like hidden, right? A shame
Mm-hmm.
is another one too.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these core and limiting beliefs drive your actions, and they often are things that we like don't want to look at all, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting to me to kind of pair, like Lyme works a lot on the joints, right? So it affects the joints, which then in Chinese medicine is connected to the liver.
Mm.
And we also know that kind of Epstein-Barr can attack the liver, so can Lyme, and Lyme loves to live in the joints. So we look then to see is there anger, resentment,
Mm.
depression, and then I use that formula, especially for people with Lyme, to see like, is this an emotion that you resonate with,
Mm.
right? And a lot of people just growing up too, like, you know, their parents wanted them to be kind of like perfectionists,
Yeah.
or there's a lot of that, right? That we have, or again, like they resent being sick because then they're not the mom that they were, or they held in their emotions with a spouse or a partner and don't express things. So there's like all this underlying resentment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but anxious is one of the top ones, right? So, and that goes that coupled with when you're looking around, like, what is it that made me sick? Like, what
Mm.
is it that tipped me off today? So, like, that's
Mm-hmm.
a low level anxiety of like that your home and your environment isn't safe.
Yeah.
And so I love pairing the remedies because it just gets on the mental emotional level. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one reason I love Chinese medicine and pair it with homeopathy is they're just clues of, why am I still sick? And sometimes people
Yeah.
can still feel sick when like they've cleared the pathogens, right?
Yeah.
Like we've cleared the things physically,
Yeah.
but your cells are still remembering and replicating as if you're still sick, right? And I'm not saying you're not. It's
Yeah.
just that's the mental emotional level that has to be addressed.
There's I was working with like a French osteopath here in Culver City, and she does more energetic work that she does
Mhm.
do hands-on, but she was talking about the back of my head. I'll have her on as well so she can explain it, but she was saying, not unlike, we talk about post-viral syndrome.
Yeah.
But she was like, I feel like the virus imprint is stuck in that
Ah,
fascia.
yeah.
And she's like, but you've cleared that virus or
Hmm.
whatever, that
Right.
COVID or whatever, COVID's gone.
Right.
And she's like, but your fascia is like
Yeah.
still
Remembering.
remembering. And
Hmm.
so when she does a clearing for me or an intuitive clearing, she's seeing like in her mind's eye, she's experiencing like white blood cells. So she's seeing,
Yeah.
okay, I'm seeing an infection going. She's like, but it's not an active infection. She's
Right.
like, what I'm clearing is the body that stored that trauma.
Hmm.
Um, and then we do our functional testing as well
Yeah.
because, we have to do both because I do a ton of energy work and
Yeah.
sometimes it moves the needle
Right.
and sometimes it doesn't at all,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing is this like I completely understand, and that's why I like to combine so many things,
Yeah.
is because to me it's like just getting rid of the toxins doesn't mean you're going to get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people do, exponentially better with just emotional and nervous system work,
Yeah.
but then it I don't often see it clearing then 100%, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like all these things, and the part that makes it difficult too is it's like we have to keep doing them, and it's
Yeah.
not like things are made to seem like, which what happens a lot with, let's just say, some energetic testing machines. They're like, oh, I made you this little remedy in like 6 weeks and it's going to be gone,
Yeah.
right? And I don't really see that happening much
Yeah.
in clinical practice,
Yeah.
right? And but we have the vibrational imprints of so many things. It's
Mm-hmm.
like that's why I do love using bioresonance, but pairing it
Mm-hmm.
again with how the person's feeling, with their physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, and then what's in their labs.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just we are very sensitive and energetic beings. And so like you could even just you could be feeling great and then have a conversation with somebody about what's going on, and then you could feel much worse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Of
sometimes
course.
people feel much better, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there's this delicate balance. And also, I think it's a big thing too, right? Which people don't understand when you look okay, right? It's
Yeah.
like these are categorized as these invisible illnesses
Yeah.
because you still look great. You maybe look a little tired, but
Yeah.
you don't look sick, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we visibly do, but
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, something's broken. Clearly, you need some support. This is going to be
Yeah.
right done in 8 weeks, right? Like
Yeah.
it's these, you're talking years, right? Like this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and again, because the system is already so delicate, it has to be done like so gently
Mm-hmm.
to not stir things up and make it worse. And a
Yeah.
lot of these aggressive treatments, a lot of clients I get because they were put on a very aggressive protocol,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it threw them off. And it might not have been exactly what did it. Like things were underlying, but it was stirring up too many pathogens too quick that the
Yeah.
person was not ready for.
Yeah. I'll never forget when I did ozone so early on. This is before you and I had started
Yeah.
working together. And
Because
I
I
did,
would never have suggested that.
no, I did ozone and I was doing high dose vitamin C twice a week and then artesunate or
Oh,
artisanate.
right. Yeah, you did.
Um, it was more of like a cancer protocol, actually,
Oh,
because
yeah.
um, but she used it for Lyme as well. But and then I would just be out. Like it was so, I can't even believe I would do the IV. I would be dizzy for the 2.5, 3 hours I would sit there getting an IV. And then I'd go home and I would herx.
Yeah.
And I was like, like bawling like crying, sweating, being like,
Yeah.
why is this happening? And it was too much, too fast.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's what's hard is because for some people ozone is amazing, right?
yeah.
They have a great, strong constitution. They can handle everything. And then you get another person who, we've cleared something, like at least symptom wise, and then they go
Hmm.
do an ozone, even just one treatment, and then a virus comes back
Yeah.
or something comes back, or
Yeah.
again, they're dizzy, or a big one that I see a lot is people do like a very aggressive parasite protocol,
Yeah.
and then the women lose their period. Like it's
Mm,
crazy. I just don't think people always put enough importance on like how strong some of these interventions are,
yeah.
and that everything has to be customized to the individual.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, right, that get these clinics also work and they see lots of people and lots of people do well,
Hmm.
but not for these very sensitive clients.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we've got a tiny bit of
Yeah,
time. I wanted to quickly ask you, what are you seeing right now in the functional world? How are things changing? I know peptides is a
sure.
huge
Yeah,
thing, but what are you excited about? What are you a little bit wary of? Yeah,
sure. So,
how are
okay.
we trending?
Yeah. So, okay. So, one thing I do love is hydrogen water and breathing
Okay.
it in. So, that's something I love, right? And haven't seen it really like be harmful or detrimental to anybody.
Okay.
It's gentle. What we do see a lot of, right, are peptides
Yeah.
and the talk of like nicotine and things like that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, what I would say is like people also think like, oh, I'll just hop in and do these things, right? Without a lot of prep. And then again, they're hoping because they see online from other people that like long haul went away in 2 days off
Yeah.
on nicotine patches, right?
Yeah.
That's not the norm of what we see. And
Yeah.
that's what's really difficult that I think that I see online all the time with a lot of practitioners, not necessarily all my friends who think similarly, but it's like making these things that do take more time,
Hmm.
and they're not where someone would just hop in and start as if it's going to like magically fix everything in a week
Yeah.
or a month.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, haven't done like the prep work and things like that to even make it so the peptides could work efficiently. Just slapping
Mm,
some peptides in your body
yeah.
is not going to just like magically reset everything, right?
Yeah.
This is a little different than if you were doing just like a GLP-1 or something for weight loss and cardiac things.
Yeah.
This is when you're in the chronic illness space, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people, their mast cell and histamine issues don't go away in 2 or 3 days on something.
Yeah.
Just not what we really see. And again, they're really trying, what I see online is just oversimplification of
Mm,
things that are very complex and nuanced. And
mm-hmm.
so then it makes the patient feel like that their system is somehow very different from everybody else. Why
Mm-hmm.
doesn't this work for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? All I'm seeing online is someone tried this and it worked in
Yeah.
2 days. I mean, I know you've come across this all the time.
Yeah.
And and so those are the things that sort of irk me about the functional world at the moment.
Yeah.
And the same too, like I 100% don't think people should be on a lot of supplements.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a delicate balance and things need to be changed, but also when you're very sensitive, there's just going to be a small amount that will be beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, people have these numbers now that you're seeing that's like if you're on more than 5 supplements, you're with the wrong doctor, right? Or
Yeah.
you can get all of your vitamin D from sunshine.
Yeah.
Genetically, a lot of people cannot, right?
Yeah.
And so, and vitamin D, for example, is more of a pro hormone
Yeah.
involved in hundreds of genetic expressions. So something as simple as taking vitamin D can help a lot of people exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were just trying to go outside and get it from the sunshine, like it's such a simple fix,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but then you're adding to your supplement stack.
Yeah.
And so again, it's just, I think being very cognizant and when anything seems like kind of a little too good to be true, it
Yeah.
probably is, right?
Yeah.
I know, I mean, trust me, I have all the gadgets. I've tried all the supplements. I've tried all the new things, right? I've tried things that have been around for over 20 years. I've
Yeah.
been doing all this since like 2001.
Yeah.
And so I always test things out. And again, it always to me comes down to kind of like what's your constitution, which I
Yeah.
learned from Chinese medicine. And genetically, great if you can dial that in and see like what are some potential pitfalls.
Yeah.
Genetics don't have to manifest, but they're just information is like a blueprint you were born with,
Yeah.
right? And then again, like with the functional side, just see what's actually happening right now
Mm-hmm.
because things can shift. And again, that's why we check for these things because if there's mold, that's going to be moved up to your top problem,
Yeah.
right? Or if you've got mast cell, you've got to calm that down.
Yeah.
And then just are like free things that you can do every day. It's not always about buying something,
Yeah.
right? Like we just have to get back to nature and
Yeah.
get to bed early,
Yeah.
figure out how to manage stress, move your system, work on your mindset, and then
Mm-hmm.
get in clean air and clean food and just again, and then big thing which we talk about a lot is like not be attached to whatever you've been diagnosed with. Like don't
Yeah.
identify with that and know that your system can heal. It might take a lot longer than we expect, but we have very strong, amazing bodies.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so, so much. I have
Sure.
really quick, they're called gut
Yeah.
feelings. They're rapid
Oh,
fire
cool.
questions.
Do it.
Okay, sweet or salty snack?
Sweet.
What would you choose?
Oh, like a gluten-free banana bread.
What's your go-to comfort food when your tummy hurts?
Oh, white rice with butter.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah.
Most chaotic thing you've done in the name of gut health or any health?
Uh, yeah, I used to do the master cleanse 4 times a year.
For how long?
I could only do 5 days because I would lose
Okay.
10 pounds.
Oh my God.
And
And
I
then
was
would it
like
just
weak,
come?
weak and shaking. And I
Yeah.
was like, but it's good. I'm detoxing.
One food your tummy hates, but your soul loves.
Gluten, sourdough bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one, right? Sourdough bread is good for everybody. No, it's not.
And I mean, the fact that you said butter makes me think that you probably went dairy free for most of your life. And now that you've healed some things, you can eat dairy.
Yeah,
Um,
after parasite cleansing, I can eat dairy. And then but I've always been able to eat butter for some
okay.
lucky reason.
Okay. What makes your tummy hurt emotionally?
Oh, when somebody's says something bad or I'm like corrected or
Mm.
critiqued
Okay. And what heals it?
for yeah,
What heals your tummy?
meat and rice.
Well, thank
Like
you.
good quality, tasty
Yeah.
food. I should say veggies, but like really I want protein and some starch.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
learned a lot about protein from you. I would definitely say even though I'm going through a bad vestibular migraine flare, I noticed that my energy was so different when I started the morning with protein,
Right.
you know? And throughout the day, like it's not just like I can have an apple here and there. Like I do still have my apple. I fight that,
Yeah.
but you know,
And rice cakes.
and rice cakes have gone down way so much. After I had that blood sugar monitor and my
Yeah.
boyfriend was with me and he had the tracker on his phone, he
Uh-huh.
was like,
He's like,
"Shannon,
what are you doing?
what did you just eat?" And I was like, I was like,
That CGM is like probably hands down my favorite at home thing because, we all want to eat what we want to eat, right?
yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot of us would love to eat more starches and carbs and sugar and all the
yeah,
tasty stuff.
yeah,
And or you wait too long to eat all kinds of things. And it literally in real time is showing you what's going on in your body. And I mean, we all think like, oh no, these are fine. Like it's not bothering me, I'm sure, because I
yeah,
don't feel this bad.
yeah,
But when you can see it on there, it's amazing,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Very quickly, Tan, this woman I met came on the podcast. She had a vestibular issue as well, but
Mm-hmm.
she just recently, well, not recently, but she was saying on her Instagram and sharing with everyone that she has an autoimmune blood disorder, and
Okay.
her blood doesn't clot,
Oh
and
yeah.
so she hemorrhages,
Oh.
and she got a continuous glucose monitor and was noticing she was in the red all the time.
Mm.
And then she was noticing the reason how she knows she's hemorrhaging is she gets bruises all
Oh
over her
yeah.
body, and
Yeah.
so she took herself to the ER and they're like, "You're having a flare up, you need steroids." She like went into full panic. She didn't eat for 3 days. And then she was like, "I'm just going to try to stabilize my blood sugar."
Hmm.
And she went back and her platelets were just up.
Yeah.
It was like just by stabilizing her blood sugar with good food and meat
Mhm.
and regular meals,
Yeah.
she was able to just like not get steroids.
Yeah.
She's like, "This works."
One, so that's again like one of the things, right? So like growing up, I always would get these blood sugar drops where you're like shaky and tired and
Hmm.
headaches and all that. So I always knew blood sugar was a thing, but you just don't always eat enough or whatever it
Hmm.
might be, or not enough protein. I had
Hmm.
plenty of carbs because they were my favorite. But again, we kind of discount like some of these big things, even when we have chronic illness, like blood sugar stabilization is a key foundation, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're all over the place with that, how are you going to help vestibular migraines or headaches and
Yeah.
dizziness, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to at least see that that part is dialed in and like what else is coming from like a stronger
Yeah.
pathogen, right?
Yeah.
Because it's often a combination, but I mean, what the blood sugar breaks down to and is very erratic for
Hmm.
most people.
Hmm.
And that's why I love, I love the CGM just because
I
it's
know.
so eye-opening. And then imagine if you ate like you wanted to, right? With
Yeah.
like sweets and treats
Yeah.
and some people that drink alcohol, it can really show you the long-term effects for hours that that meal or drink or dessert has.
What was really interesting for me is that I was never going into the red, but I felt hypoglycemic.
Yeah.
So even when the protein would definitely help, but I sometimes would eat protein and still feel hypoglycemic. But I would look at my glucose monitor and it would be totally stable.
Yeah.
So then would that be like a neurological thing that's happening?
Yeah. And that's where it can kind of point you, yeah, to like for people sometimes that have POTS or something,
Yeah.
or yeah, like vestibular migraines or migraines, like it's, or like Coxsackie, right? One of the viruses that
Yeah.
causes a lot of dizziness. It's like if you can at least rule out that your blood sugar is stable, then we know that it's you need to put your energy on some of these other things.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
when people don't know what's going on with their blood sugar and you're just assuming, right? You don't really know. And it
Yeah.
could be an easier fix. Or like I
Yeah.
know I always harp on everybody about iron. And
Yeah.
it's just like you have to make sure the ferritin and iron are optimal when you have dizziness and vestibular
Yeah.
migraines and all kinds of things. Because again, that's a much easier fix than
For
going
sure.
after the Lyme, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just need some of these things that are easier to get dialed in,
Yeah.
get them solid, like get
Yeah.
your foundations in. And those are just like typical things that, but a lot of women, especially, deal with blood sugar and anemia.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes all they're really dealing with.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure most of your life, like those were big, for all of us, usually those are big things.
Yeah. I mean, I just saw my blood test and I know we're waiting on markers, but I was
Yeah.
like, my ferritin's down. And I was like, ugh. I was like, maybe that's why. Like, if if we don't know right now, if we're still waiting on other things with the
Yeah.
dizziness, okay, I have dropped off taking my ferritin. So
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I know it's low now. That's something I can do to bring
Right.
it
And
back
it's
up.
not, again, it's like it doesn't feel like you're kind of going after something that's not warranted, right?
Yeah,
Because I know
exactly.
there's so many things when there's so many things going on. And we're
Exactly.
always like, which one is it right now?
Yeah,
And again, that kind of always comes back to me like, I wish I could tell you it was one thing,
I know.
but it's like 10,
I
right?
know. I'm
I know I
so
always,
scared.
I know I always
Yeah.
say this, but it's usually like a lot. It's not
I
one.
know. I know. I know. And you've mentioned that COVID has made everything so much more complicated too.
It
I,
has. It's just really changed the landscape, for people, even if they had a mild case, or for what happened mostly with people that already had chronic things is
yeah.
COVID had reactivated Lyme, reactivated Epstein-Barr, which then
Mm-hmm.
means
Mm-hmm.
that's really like what long haul is. It's like it's reactivated things in
Yeah.
people. All viruses that when since we've been working with things, there's the post-viral fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a Epstein-Barr reactivation. That's like long
Mm-hmm.
haul. So to us, it's nothing new in the viral world or the
Yeah.
chronic illness world.
Yeah.
It's just this one's quite strong and you know has
Complicated.
reactivated quite a few things for people. Yeah.
Well, where can everyone find you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram, Dr. Ashley Beckman, and I always offer like a complimentary call,
Yeah.
video call if someone is interested in working together, just to see how it works.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I
Sure.
could pick your brain forever for hours. So thank you so much for being
All
here.
my favorite topics.